Woo!
Hey, man.
Well,
William,
hello, Peter Anderson. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's nice to hear your voice and see your face here. You're not in a classroom this
I'm
time.
not in a I'm not in a classroom this time. And hello to everyone out there. We already have some fans tuned in. Thank you so much. If you want to let us know where you're tuning in from, that would be fantastic. My name is W, aka William, hosting this event with Peter Anderson, drummer, engineer extraordinaire. The man can do it all. But before we begin this conversation, I wanted to. The reason why I was playing that song is the last time, Peter, you and I spoke was literally in the classroom. I was working with my third graders, and they had been learning Ocean Blue songs over the past 3 months. And you and the band were so kind to do an interview with my third graders. And one
That
of the
was fun.
songs that was fun. And one
Yeah.
of the songs that they truly gravitated toward was Mercury, but also Touchdown on Earth. And as we learned those songs over and over again, what I noticed with Touchdown on Earth was every time they learned it, boys at that age, they don't have the vocal range. But God bless them, they would try to hit those higher notes and in the build up and the swells and the beautiful dreamscape of that whole song. It was fun to watch children immerse themselves in that kind of dream pop sound. And so I just wanted to give that little introduction. I don't know if you remember that special moment, but hey, it's nice to
I
see you.
do. I remember I really like that song, and it's kind of a deep cut. Can you say that? Deep cut off of Ultramarine. And
Yeah,
so, and we've never performed it. And so, it's just one of those songs you're like, oh, they picked up on that one. Cool.
and Steve is here. I'm a fan from Bucks County. Shannon, hey,
Oh, hey,
Shannon
Steve.
here.
Oh, look at
Uh,
I'm seeing some comments here.
Ping's here. Melvin Peabody. I know who Melvin Peabody. That's a good one. So thank you all for tuning in. This is how it's going. Dave from Milwaukee, Wisconsin's here. Thank you for tuning in, David. If you have any
Awesome.
questions for
Oh,
Peter
Dave. Hey,
um,
Dave.
you can shoot us a question, and we'll stop along the way so Peter can field them, and he'll answer as he can go. Lisa just
Hey,
tuned in.
sis. How's it
Um,
going? If Steve's here, I know everything's going to be okay.
Very cool. Matt's here. Loved your last record. Thanks for coming to Motown. All right. So,
Thanks,
you
man.
know,
Detroit, we love it.
you are engineer, drummer, parent, husband, kind of a jack of all trades. You're a sessions performer. You can fill in at any time, anywhere, it seems like. I want to know before we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of what you're doing now. Take us back a while ago when you started getting into music, how you got into music, what inspired you. Give us those early narratives, if you will.
Well, I had a couple of friends that I grew up with. A guy named Jim Greedle, a guy named Chris O'Malley, and we went to grade school together. I met those guys in first grade. We went to kind of a small school, and we all kind of had interests that coincided from an early age. And one of those by third grade was music, and like really got into music and listened to it a lot together, borrowed records from our teachers who would give us their 45 collections and stuff. And those guys started taking folk guitar lessons around fifth grade, sixth grade. And I had a paper route, and they said, if you got a drum set, you could be the drummer. We're going to start a band. And I guess I sort of identified that I did want to be a drummer pretty quickly. um, that was sort of whatever the impetus. And but I did have an interest in the drums already, and I realized that later, kind of like what some of the early things I always thought about having to do with drums. I'm pretty sure I saw the Who on the Smothers Brothers show, not like when it ran the first time, but it might have been. I mean, I was alive, and but probably a repeat or something. But I do remember the whole My Generation sort of debacle thing, and then I also had a kids book called Drummer Hoff, fired it off, and I was kind of fascinated with that book. So red drums, I always like red drums,
And as you,
and I started a band with those guys,
okay,
Jim and Chris, in sixth grade. So
what was the name of
I
that band again?
well, it started off. It was the Slender Threads, and then it turned into. By the time we graduated high school, we were the Bloods, and so we were sort of like into our 20s as the Bloods. We put out an indie record here in Minneapolis and toured the Midwest, and had fun. Tried to make it.
Yeah.
Tried some school. Tried left. Everybody kind of quit school to pursue our dream of being whatever the equivalent of the Beatles would be in 1985 or 86. I think, you know, that would have been REM or something for us,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were your parents supportive of your endeavor as a musician?
Yeah, my dad uh, bought me my first snare drum, and they, I gotta say, they never discouraged me from playing the drums. And I gotta say, I mean, drums are not a very family friendly instrument
Right.
to start playing. I have a brother and a sister, and so they had to put up with that, and the folks had to put up with that too. And but yeah, no, I was able to practice drums in my house, and the guys that I made music with had supportive parents too. We kind of kept our band set up in one of their houses, or switched back and forth. They had older brothers and sisters who would maybe come down and interrupt our band practice to have us come up and listen to something. Hey, you should listen to this. You should try to play this. And that was kind of a big influence. The record collections and tastes of my friends' older siblings. You know what I mean? Kind of, we kind of approached playing music from the beginning of at least the rock era, through it sort of like, playing 50s songs when Sha Na Na was a
Uh,
thing, and Happy Days,
like
like
Shana Na. Shana Na is like Bowser. Shana Na, that kind of like.
yeah, because they played all the 50s tunes, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So and their records were like $2 or something at the Montgomery Ward's record selection. All the other records were $4 or $5. So I don't know why Pickwick Records or some sort of off label. But yeah, so we would learn 50s tunes, and then we kind of graduated to the Beatles pretty quickly, and would try to, and classic rock from
Yeah.
there. And I think the thing, when high school started, we were playing parties at that point and things like that. But there were a couple groups. I'm in Minneapolis. I grew up in Minneapolis, and I
Mhm.
still live here. And we sort of came under the influence of the whole, um, like whatever you want to call it, punk, indie, alternative scene that was happening here, and particularly a couple of bands. One, the Replacements, put out a record, and I remember, it's like, oh, the bass player, he's our age, you know what I mean? We got to check out this record, and it's like, wow, they're writing their own songs. And this other band called the Suburbs was writing their
Mhm.
own songs, and playing their own songs too. And we're like, oh, we could do that. We should write our own songs. And so that was a real exciting thing for us. It got us even more sort of invested in this being in a band thing, and we would write our own songs and try to record them and send them out and try to get gigs, and just kind of the whole thing that you try to do.
So when we last spoke, we were in my classroom, and I had a set of drums in the back, and I would play often with the students during recess or after school. And one of the questions the kids always ask me is, "Mr. Frederick, why do you like the drums so much?" And I don't claim to be a professional drummer. I'd much rather stick with teaching. But one of the things I said was, it's this release of energy that I don't really know how to explain it. So my question to you, Peter, is what is it about the drums that you gravitate towards? What does it do for you? How does it give you that particular feeling, whatever that feeling is?
Well, I think I mean, as I get older, I think I've identified that I like the combination of freedom and organization required, there's a lot of organization required in playing the drums, but then within that, there's this sort of enormous freedom and emotional kind of wave that you can ride on. When you're well organized and your time is well organized and your groove is happening, that sort of sets up this whole kind of other level of enjoyment. And, it can be meditative or it can be really impulsive. And, it's just like there's this whole spectrum of emotions and what feels like expression that comes out of this whole thing that is basically just organizing organizing moments in time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
And
do. And when
yeah.
did you start feeling pretty adept at playing the drums? When did you start getting actually I can do this well, and I can actually carry this over into a possible career?
Well, I had a pretty good session last Saturday, and I felt good about it at the end of the day.
You're only as
I,
good
you
as your
know, I'm always reevaluating where I stand with myself on that. I think early on I got a lot of encouragement. I listened to a lot of music that wasn't just rock, and I liked. By the time I was in high school, I really liked a lot of kind of, I guess you would call, classic jazz
okay.
stuff and 60s jazz, and then some more avant-garde rock and stuff too. So I was kind of trying to emulate some things that I was hearing drummers I really was inspired by do, like Mitch Mitchell and Keith Moon, maybe players that were busier, or in the jazz world, there's a whole different way drum parts are constructed and organized. And I was trying to learn those licks, you know what I mean? And so maybe I had some things that I would incorporate into my band playing, that because there was room in a three-piece band for stepping out a little bit. And so uh, I might have been a little bit of a overly busy player at times, and at certain points in time that was impressive to people. I've sort of grown out of that, maybe taken it to the other extreme in certain settings now, really trying to play more restrained. Although I do play now in a Who tribute band, so I really do get to let the dogs out on that one and really just kind of do what comes naturally.
Yeah.
uh, you know, but yeah, is that,
Yeah, no, I think that's, and
yeah,
as you were acquiring these drumming skills, by the way, hello to everyone for tuning in to this special interview with Peter Anderson of the Ocean Blue and many other um, bands that he's worked with as well. And if you have a question for Peter, go ahead, put it in the chat box. Ping says the suburbs. Aldo
yeah,
Garza says hello to Steve as well. Greetings to everyone. Hi, Bobby. Hope you had a nice birthday. Bobby and Steve are in the house. Very cool. And Aldo's He's from Monterrey, Mexico. Very cool.
Yes, we've been talking to him for a couple of years about trying to get down there and play. It would be fun to go to
Um,
Mexico. We haven't been there yet
you haven't been there at all.
to play. I've been there to
Right.
vacation,
Right.
not Monterey, but yeah, no, we've always had this sort of like, wow, wouldn't it be great to go play in Mexico City? And it just hasn't come to pass yet. There hasn't been a
And when
an
that
opportunity.
And when that happens, I would be curious to see if you get that visceral, frenetic fan energy that you get when you're overseas in, was it Peru?
Peru, we got a great response. That
Yeah.
sort of made us think it might be really good to go to Mexico City. You know, you can kind of track where people are listening to your music um, these days with the streaming apps. Uh, you know, they'll if you're an artist, you can check and see where your stats are, where you're being played the most. And cities
Well,
like Mexico City and Lima, Peru, are a couple uh, places where the band gets a lot of streaming.
and we'll get into that some of the ocean blue touring stuff and why maybe Lima, Peru has become like this. I mean, if you watch, if for people that are watching this, go onto YouTube and check out some videos. I mean, the love that the Peruvian people have for you for your band is pretty infectious. All
We
right,
went
so
into that not knowing, yeah, really what to expect.
it's
And it
crazy.
was great. I think we've been back 4 times or three. Yeah, I think we've been there a total of 4 times.
As you were acquiring these drumming skills, what is it about drumming that you particularly like? So let me give you an example. Is it, using your feet? Is it using your hands? Is it what kind of time signatures are you into? Give us a little bit some of the technical aspects to drumming that you really um, that you've had to work at or it comes naturally.
Well, you know, I really like drums. You know how some people like cars and boats?
Yeah.
And, you know, like bling or whatever. I like drums. Like I'm attracted to drums and I think they're cool, mechanical, musical. I like the way they look. I like to take them apart. I like to put them back together. I like to tune them. I like to have a lot of them and
Mhm.
drums and cymbals. And I want to know how to make them work and do their thing. Hear a drummer that I like on a record and I'll go like, how did they get that sound? You know what I mean? It kind of provided me with, I just have a lot of fascination for drums and I also like drumming's like a support role, right? You're an accompanist, but it's also kind of a leadership role, you know?
Sure.
So it's like you don't get all the glory, but you are kind of holding the reins a lot, which apparently I like. And, yeah, technically, I'm trying to think about the things I'm trying to get better at. I mean, I like using my feet and hands equally. I've been working on playing double bass drum, which was always something that seemed like it didn't have much to do with the music
Mhm.
that I played or liked, but I think doing Keith Moon stuff in a Who context sort of like opened that door. It's like, well, he had two bass drums. What was he doing? And he's doing something different than what the drummer in Iron Maiden is, or Alex Van Halen, or Ginger Baker, even. But so I've been kind of interested in that because I've always liked, like I said, going back to jazz, drumming and stuff, the way that all of the limbs are involved in that type of
Mhm.
playing, the four-way coordination. And so lately I've sort of, when I do have time in the practice room, I've been trying stuff with double bass drums, and I
And
like it.
how's that going?
I could be better. And that's
You know,
good. That's
yeah.
just give me something to shoot for.
You know,
I'm
the
working
last,
it in. I'm working it
the
in. I
last,
think I like what Keith Moon, what made me go like, oh, well, there's an in is Keith Moon was, I observed from watching some movies where you could really see what it was like. Okay, there's no front head on the left bass drum. You can really see each time the batter hits. What's he doing, you know? And well, it turns out that he was oftentimes just playing boom, 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 like a constant quarter note
Mhm.
underneath what uh, what else he was doing. And I was like, whoa, that's a really insistent, primal kind of driving thing. I love that. I'm going to do that too. Yeah. So yeah, I love that about what he's doing on there. And I mean, when I'm practicing, the physical balance and coordination involved in playing more complex figures lends itself to maybe playing in a way that I wouldn't normally think is supporting the music correctly. But on the other hand, maybe if I get a little more of those skills, that maybe I'll throw them in for fun.
When I last time I saw you guys play was in San Francisco. The Orange Peels opened up. This was over at
Oh yeah, the Swedish Center or
yeah,
yeah,
it's Cafe du Nord or
Cafe du Nord.
Swedish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we did a couple nights or a couple shows in one night, I think.
and that's when it really hit me with your and again, I'm no drummer, but you had this great rhythm, this driving rhythm, and you were so smooth in your downbeats and your strokes. And again, I want to ask, is that something you've just learned how to do over time, or is that something that came naturally? What aspect of drumming have you really had to work harder at, and what just seems to be just it's just easy, like drinking water for you?
Oh, I think I've worked the hardest in the last 10 years at being able to be more aware of and consistent with dynamics, like
Mhm.
really being like not just it's easy to sometimes get lost when you're uh, in your head or in the ride, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes if you get a little sloppy with your dynamics. I've been doing a lot of recording in the last 20 years. I'm in the studio as much or more than I actually play out. And in the studio, you start to learn more that certain things that you might gravitate towards for showmanship live don't necessarily translate
Right.
to the microphones. And so dynamic range, like being more effective with controlling that, and then metronomic time is a thing that a lot of the records I grew up listening to and emulating when I was learning to play drums weren't cut like with metronomic time, but pretty much um, since I've actually started working in recording studios in my 20s, uh, a lot of the recordings I've done have been with click tracks, like where there's a sort of like constant source. And I had a big learning curve with that, with sort of like getting rid of certain habits to be able to have the style of drumming that I like, which I think involves a little bit of swing and a kind of feel that it maybe paints outside the lines a little bit. At
Mhm.
least those are the things I hear, but trying to get that across in a way that doesn't leave the grid is what they call it. The the bar lines when you're recording on a computer, and you can see exactly where your bass drums and your snare drums are landing in relation to that. That that's sort of a litmus test, I think, for drummers that play on records, because so much of what you do is cut in metronomic time,
Mhm.
and a lot of people are using software or machines, sequencers, to program parts of music that are in very specific even time. And so if you can't get your idea of swing across or freedom across and still support that, it's not going to work, on a record. So Ocean Blues is a nice example of a group that has a lot of feel, I think, but we still incorporate some elements of electronic stuff here and there, and um, I wouldn't say not 100% of the music isn't cut to a click, but I would say a high percentage of it is.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, just time. I mean, the things I would expect that I would be working on in 20 years if I'm still playing.
Yeah.
Dynamics, time, feel, um, the sound I get. The sound. I worked a lot on the sound that I got in the 90s, maybe when I mean, I still do, but you know what I mean? Like when I started touring a lot, I was in a band called Polera, and we'd go
Hmm.
out on the road for 2 or 3 months
Hmm.
at a time and play every night. And that my hands started hurt. I started sort of busting my chops and figuring out that maybe I wasn't playing right ergonomically, and I had to change some things about the way I played. And when I started doing that, I also found out how that changed the way what I played sounded, and it generally sounded better if I wasn't trying to muscle things so much, and let, play with a little more freedom. And you can still play loud.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I found a better way to use the stick, to hold the stick, to release it, to hit the drum, get more sound out of the drum um, without
Exerting so much
yeah,
energy.
without pummeling it
Yeah.
in the same way that I might have thought was necessary. Again, a lot of that knowledge came quickly in the studio, where you realize that's like, oh, okay, well, the feeling that I'm trying to get across to the back of this club I'm playing, and it's not necessary. The microphones are right there, so actually, if you play the drums or the cymbals too hard, they might not sound good. You know what I mean? If you play them in the wrong way, you know.
So I'd like to transition into some ocean blue talk, if you don't mind. And the way I'm
Not
going
at
to do
all.
that,
Yeah.
and again, if you're tuning in, my name is W, aka William. Speaking with Peter Anderson, drummer for the Ocean Blue, and I'm going to play a little bit of this song from Kings and Queens album, and I want you to just talk a little bit. I'll turn it down or off. How you came up with the drum part for this. It is literally, some of the people who are listening know this is like one of my top three ocean blues songs of all time. And it's called Paraguay, My Love.
Oh my.
And I,
Well, there's a good story there. So.
yeah, that song I probably listened to 1,000 times and I just never get sick of it. But I want to play it, and I love the tempo. I love the atmosphere. I love the feel of it. So can you hear this? Is that
Yes.
okay? So we get through all the beautiful sparkling guitar work and all that, but you're drumming. Tell us a little about how you came up with that drum beat pattern.
Well, the drum beat and the main riff and the bum 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 bum
Yeah.
bass line, uh, like I would say a lot of the main elements of what became that song came from an iPhone recording I made at a sound check in, Steve, help me if you can. It was not in Paraguay. It was in Uruguay, but
Okay.
it was at a sound check, and I
Yeah.
had recorded. I had recorded this jam we were doing. Basically, Bob and Dave and I were doing some kind of a jam at Soundcheck, and I was like, this is kind of cool. I was playing an unusual beat, and so the iPhone recording later when I was going through some of these things, because I had recorded a lot of things we'd hear in the car or on the street in South America. We were on a South American tour, and I came across that one. I was like, whoa, I think there's a song in here. This is kind of cool. So I cut it into, I think it was like a couple different loops, kind of the main boom down ba dun 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 boom ba dun ba dun, and then there's the kind of second part dun 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 dun, which is this bass line that revolves. And I just kind of made a little demo of those two things together and gave it to David, and he kind of wrote the song around it. And so the iPhone recording is actually in the song. You can hear it in the song because we just use it's like sort of a sample track, as it
Yeah,
were. It plays through the whole song. Anyway, that's how I came up with that, because we were just screwing around at Soundcheck, and I heard something, and I was like, "Oh, I could play a busy beat." I like that kind of. I think I was probably thinking like, "Hey, what if I made up a beat that was kind of like that Icicle Works, drum?" I mean, it's
oh
not,
yeah, yeah.
but you
Right,
know what I
right.
mean. Something
Yeah,
that's a little bit Tom
yeah.
oriented, or what's that band? The Feelies had all those great kind of Tom pattern songs. I like stuff like that, or like, Hanging Garden by The Cure. You know what I mean? Just there's all these kind of great songs that are built around these Tom riffs. And so I was just, when I heard David play that little surf rock thing, I was like, oh, what if I did that? Well, so iPhones are your friend. Voice memos can
No,
end
that's
up on, yeah.
and so when you play that song live, which I've yet to see, and I'm hoping to see you guys when you
Oh yeah, we
come over.
play it every show now. Yeah.
Don't tell me that.
Oh no, we don't. We didn't play it. Oh, we wouldn't have played it in
Okay,
2013 because it didn't exist yet. Yeah.
right. So when you play these songs from a recording aspect to a live, context setting, are there some songs that you try to move into that live context and you're like, no, this doesn't work at all. We're just going to keep it on the record, or vice versa? Do some songs just really lend itself to that live setting that you
I
go
know
that?
there's been a couple of things that have been more successful than others, and they tend to work themselves in and out. But I mean, for instance, there's a song uh, that's actually pretty popular with streaming listeners off of Ultramarine called Latin Blues,
Uh-huh.
and it's kind of a chill song with a cool little clubby groove. And I know that we tried working it up maybe when the record came out, because it was on the record. And maybe we weren't convinced that we were playing it well enough to play live. I guess that would have been almost 10 years ago. Uh, but it's in the set now. It's like we were kind of like, wow, this song is popular. We should have another swipe at it, and it really came together. And sometimes we have guest singers up with us on it, and it's really a moment. And you can tell people know the song too. So that's kind of the thing that's uh, nice, is when some of these songs that weren't necessarily, because it's a band that the Ocean Blue has been around for a long time, and the
Yeah.
more uh, popular songs are often things that people have heard, in on MTV in 1989 or 1990, and those are great tunes. But it's nice when you see the recent work sort of enter the canon of most streamed. Yeah,
Well, that and I mean, most people that I know that love the Ocean Blue from the late '80s, early '90s still love the Ocean Blue, if not even more, because of the great reverence we hold for the work that you've done, this great body of work and the evolution of the band and the different sounds. but yet still anchored in that ocean blue feel. So my question to you, Peter, is what does it mean to be part of this band that so many people revere? And what is, besides being a drummer, how else have you played an instrumental role in being in this band?
Well, man, I mean, I love being in the band. It's an honor, and they're everybody in the band is a good friend of mine, and um, you know, a lot of life has transpired for me and
Yeah.
for everyone in the band uh, while we've been doing this together and making music. And so, even though, yeah, there was sort of a point um, where when I started playing with them, it was sort of happenstance. I met um, David and Ed when at a time when weren't they didn't have their drummer was no longer um, available, and they were putting out a record and they wanted to do some shows, and David and I kind of struck up a friendship. He moved to the city I live in,
Mhm.
and we had mutual friends in music, and was like, hey, you want to do a couple shows? And I was like, yeah, sure, that'd be fun. um, so you know what, for the first part of and there were already the band already had I want to say 4 or 5 records at that point. So um, for the first few years of doing shows, which was I don't know, kind of like what we do now, you know, like a couple times a year for um, a dozen to a couple dozen shows a year. Um, you know, there's just a lot of repertoire for me to learn and absorb, and I was familiar with the band a little bit before,
Okay.
and I had actually seen the band play. Well, actually, I remember I was at the Mighty Lemon Drops, John Wesley Harding Ocean Blues
Oh,
show, kind of
yeah.
the infamous big tour from their early days,
I want
and
that. One of my favorite tours. Absolutely.
I think I might have gone there with my brother. I'm sure my brother was there because he was a
Oh,
Mighty Lemon Drops fan.
fond
But I don't
memories.
remember too much about uh, them specifically. But then in 1996, I saw them, and it had to be on the Sea Tour, 95 or 96, at First Avenue in Minneapolis. And it was their own show. And my friend Ed Ackerson, who I was in a band with, was mixing, or he was like the house sound guy that night. And so I went down to the entry, and I remember the Ocean Blue, and I remember them having a great drummer,
Hmm.
and I remember the singer singing, "And my ship is a dying Pequod," which is a line from Ways and Means off the album See. That always stuck with me. And so that was in '96, and there was a little bit of foreshadowing. I had a friend, I want to say around '98, somebody who asked me, she's like, you know this? You ever? She was an Ocean Blue. Do you ever hear this band, the Ocean Blue? And they've got this song and this video, and it's about this guy's looking at a painting, you know. And I mean, I can't remember specifically the conversation too much of what the description was, but she said, "You remind me of that band. Do you like that band?" And I think about that every once in a while because like, oh, that's kind of weird because literally a year later I met David and Ed at a party, and yeah, so
And you do some engineering, some production work on Ultramarine?
yeah. By
Yeah.
that point, we were doing a lot of the recording in the Midwest in the and so David likes to work off of drums pretty early in the evolution of a song, and we both have home studio situations. I work at a recording studio as well called Flowers, And so we ultramarine was the two of us spending a lot of hours going like, let's figure out how to make. I mean, we had already made recordings on our own, and like Davy Jones' Locker was
Mhm.
largely a self-produced record, but that I wasn't involved with. Obviously, Waterworks was kind of dipping our toe into that, and had some great songs on that. We did a couple things in Minneapolis, but yeah, Ultramarine was the first one where it was like, oh, we're self-recording all of this, recording, mixing in this studio situation we've got at David David's studio, and our combined knowledge and learning curve, and it was fun. We put a lot of hours into that record. Kings and Queens too.
Yeah.
Yeah, takes us a while maybe to get everything just the way we want it, you know.
Are you anal retentive or extremely meticulous in just getting that sound?
Um, I can be, but I don't know that I think it's good to chase certain things, but I think it's also good to for things to come easily.
Yeah.
So when it comes to recording, and I think yeah, it can be hard because I might be free and easy about one thing, and then David might be very specific or detail, and vice versa. So when you're working with somebody, and then the other band members obviously have input too, and are
Yeah.
involved in um, recording their parts and making production decisions, mix decisions. So you know, it's a ebb and flow thing. Um,
So,
I it depends. Recording, I can definitely get obsessed about something if I think it's important, but I also think at the end of the day that I want things to seem like they weren't fussed over, actually,
and
because
actually,
I think that music that seems like it's a little more born of magical moment is this what I want records to kind of have that spark, you know what I mean? I think you
yes,
can have that
yeah.
and deep dive, but yeah, no, it's easy. I mean, I've engineered a lot of sessions and worked on a lot of records for other people, not just things that I've played on, and I've definitely gone down the rabbit hole on some things and like the results oftentimes, and oftentimes going like, oh, could have gotten there a little easier, I think,
So I'm gonna list some Ocean Blue songs from Ultramarine or Waterworks, and if one just stands out in your mind, we're like, damn, that song was a beast to create. The composition of that, and you put it on the album. So if there are any songs that I rattle off here and their names, let us know if they're like how arduous they were to put together. So like we have Pedestrian, Golden Gate, Ticket to Wyoming, Sun Shower. I love that one.
Hey,
North.
sun shower's fun. um I got a good story about that. That song was exciting for me because it came out at a time I think I didn't have a car, and I was that's Ed Ronnie wrote that song and played a lot of the instruments on it, but I had an attic apartment and I was recording drums in my attic with two mics, which is how the drums on that record were done. And so he sent me basically the song and just like, hey, this needs drums. I think I replaced a drum machine. And so I did it up in my $200 a month apartment attic with and one day I was downtown Minneapolis standing at the bus stop, and it was really cold, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go into the Gap and warm up for a second while I'm waiting for my bus. And I was in there,
No way.
and some music came on, and I was like, this sounds like my apartment. And it was sun shower. Anyway,
Oh, yeah.
okay, sun shower, move on. But that was a kick for me, like hearing your song on the radio or something. For me, I didn't have a car radio because I didn't have a car, but
Yeah.
I heard it in the Gap, and that was even better.
You know, I would love for my guests, just real quickly, if you want to post a comment in the chat box, or we're going to have to wrap this up in a little bit. But for the guests listening, if you wouldn't mind telling us what is it about the ocean blue that you admire, or any of Peter's work that you've seen or heard him perform. What is it about their work that you gravitate towards? And maybe you're a new fan of the Ocean Blue, or maybe you've been listening to them 20, 30 years, or maybe you've seen them 20 times in concert. So if you wouldn't mind posting those comments, that would be awesome. Um, as far as working with so many other bands, so on and so forth, and if you don't mind, Peter, I'm going to list some of these artists, albums, musicians that you've worked with. And also, if you don't mind, I'm going to share your playlist with the public. Are you okay with
That'd be
that?
great. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously we've talked about the ocean blue. And here we go. I'm just gonna Peter put together a wonderful over 24-hour sound
It's
goodie
how
bag.
I keep track of what I've played on. Yeah.
So
At least
tell
in
us,
the streaming world.
yeah, tell us about Megan and the Bird Watcher. Megan and the Bird Watcher.
Megan and the Birdwatcher are great. It's a group that came to the studio. I work at Flowers to make a record with Chris Johnson, who is a producer that works at Flowers as well. Has a great band called Two Harbors. But we had talked. I had kind of initially pointed them towards Flowers, and I wasn't available to record with them. But I was like, but if you need a drummer, I was like, you should work with KJ, and if you need a drummer, I'll play. I'd be happy to play on it. And I just fell in love with the songwriting. It kind of worked out to be that. But when they sent me the songs, I remember texting with KJ and going like, "Did you hear that song? Listen to that song yet? It's so great! Oh my God, who are these guys?" So it was that feeling, and it was literally one of those things where we recorded the music in a day. I had never played with them before. We hadn't rehearsed. I'd just gotten the songs and kind of got an idea about what to do, and we went in, cut everything live together, and felt real magic, real easy, and it's a it's a different kind of instrumentation. It's kind of like almost like a bluegrass band as far as the instrumentation goes. But I always tell, um, but the sound is very malleable and kind of has a wide range. It gets soulful. It's bluegrassy and country, a lot of it at points, singer-songwriter vibes. I love it. They're really great folks, and I played a lot of bluegrass festivals this summer with Megan and the Birdwatcher. So that's a group based out of Minneapolis, and somebody that I work with when I'm not on tour.
You didn't come to the Bay Area for this Hardly Strictly, did you? Bluegrass Festival?
Nope, haven't made it out to the West Coast. It's all
Okay.
been
Okay.
Midwest. They've, I think, gotten as far as Montana so far.
Okay. How about let's do this artist, John Magnuson. John Magnuson.
John Magnuson. What song are you playing, Candy?
We could do Bird That Doesn't Sing, Barely
Oh, I like
Noticed.
that one. Yeah, John was in a. So John is another Minneapolis artist. I um, got a call from a producer, a studio guy, Mark Stockard, was doing a record for John at his studio in Minneapolis, and I had played on another record for Mark over there, and he was like, "I think he'd be great on this." And so we did the same rhythm section. And John had a great band that was on Twin Tone Records in the 90s called the Carpetbaggers, and they were kind of an early like country, uh, really a country band, sort of operating in the indie rock realm. They're on a punk rock label, essentially. I mean, Twin Tone had a wider wide range, but I always thought of them as like, a punk rock label, and they were sort of like doing, I don't know, what somebody like the Cactus Blossoms or something might be doing now. Real Everly Brothers influence stuff. And John was making his first record in many, many years. It just came out a couple years ago, and so that was great.
Here's one, a band that people have really clung to this year, Tallies.
Oh yeah,
Am I the man?
I played the bongos
The
and a
bongos.
bunch of percussion on that song, so I thought it was enough of a contribution to include it because I love the band too, and I was like, I'm so excited I'm on their record. Yeah, Dylan, they're they're friends of ours, and
Okay.
they came out to see us in Chicago before they ever played with us. They've played with us a couple of times now. And Dylan has filled in the band from time to time in the Ocean Blue.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of buzz and attention right now, huh?
Yeah, I'm excited for them. They're going over to Europe and kind of making a little splash, I think. Or yeah, I'm excited for them. Great record.
There is a great post-punk band out of Liverpool, England, known as the Wild Swans.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they had that great album, "Bringing Home the Ashes," and then they did "Space Flower," so on and so forth. When they did some touring, one of the places that people just went nuts was the Philippines, Manila.
yeah,
So whenever Paul Simpson goes over to Manila, they treat him like royalty. And I've had the good fortune of just privately talking and figuring out how the hell did Manila come about? What is it about Manila that totally embraced the Wild Swans? So I want to go back to what we talked about earlier in Peru.
yeah.
How did that fan base in Peru just grow and grow and grow and just kind of balloon into this? I mean, they adore the ocean blue. Do you know how that started?
I think I think the people that brought us over there first, a couple guys that had a record label named Automatic Records and a great band called Resplendor.
Oh yeah.
They were in. You've heard of them, so
Oh,
yeah.
and Antonio.
Shoegaze. There's like a shoegaze scene down there,
Yeah.
and those guys brought us down there for the first time in 2006. I think it was, yeah, 2006, and that was, and so they really knew what the audience was for it. I think to the best of my knowledge, my understanding is that even though the Ocean Blue records weren't necessarily widely available, say like in Europe,
Yeah.
like the band didn't tour over there a lot, they were distributed heavily in South America, or they received a lot of airplay, or maybe it had something to do with the MTV stuff, the 120 minutes. But I think there were some Sire Records compilations that made their way down to South America, and what they got played on the radio. People know the songs, and so it was pretty amazing, actually. Yeah, to go to a country that is like, how would they even know who we are, and have people singing along to these songs? You know what I mean? Which is always kind of an amazing, fun, validating thing.
I can't
But
imagine what.
yeah, so yeah, we just love Peru and all of the great partners we have down there. Um, it's We did a wider tour of South America in. I'm sort of off with my dates, but I think it was 2015 or 2016. Steve Leo probably write the correct
Yeah,
date
put
in the comments, but he um, and we didn't. Yeah, some of those shows were we were playing much smaller club. You know, it was like you got the feeling that there was something in Peru really about the way we went down there the first time and how the people that brought us really knew who to connect with and how to make it a big deal to get the word out. Um, there's people. There were some shows where maybe we were like, "Oh, I thought this would be a bigger show or whatever," and people were like, "You know what? Everybody knows your music, but nobody knows who it is." You know what I mean? Like if you're listening to a classic rock station,
yeah.
you know, and you hear the song with the yodeling, you know, everybody knows, everyone, well, my age just heard that song at some point in their life, but they don't necessarily know that it's, oh, Hocus Pocus by Focus. You know what I mean? So it's like when the radio is a big deal
Yeah.
and you hear songs, but you don't know, then it really comes down to how things are promoted. So I don't know. Manila, I got Manila on line one right now, actually,
Oh
about,
yeah.
yeah. And so there's interesting things afoot. We would really like to get over to the UK when we put out our next record, which hopefully won't be, you know, more than a year or so from now. And
How's yeah? So how's the touring going right now? You have some
great,
show. Yeah.
great. We've been really lucky. I think there's a lot of stuff going on this fall. Like touring is on in full force, and you know, every club has got a show every night, and but we've been getting great turnouts and excited audiences. The band has been sounding, I think, the best it's ever sounded, and um, we're we're playing. I love the set. You know, we mix it up a little bit, and the shows have been going great. We're excited for this week. Three of our favorite cities to play in: Seattle, Salt Lake City, and Los Angeles.
Yeah. So
Thursday,
I've
Friday, Saturday.
yeah, Seattle, October 20th.
Hmm.
Where is that? Are you playing at the Tractor at the tavern? Where?
No, Madame Lou's is the new is sort of the new mid room at the Crocodile.
Okay.
Crocodile
Okay.
was kind of the club we've always played. Well, we have played the Tractor, great
Yeah.
club too,
Yeah.
but the Crocodile relocated from the place they had been forever and opened, and so they have like a three-tier, like a small room, a medium room, a larger venue. We're playing Madame Lou's, which is the sort of medium room on Thursday,
I'll have
and
to
that's
tell
going
my
to be a
best.
great show.
Yeah, I have to tell my best friend. He lives in Ballard,
Oh yeah,
and yeah, so
well, right
that's where
down
the
the street from the
yeah,
Tractor. Yeah.
yeah. So
No, we played the Tractor Tavern in 2013.
I'll have to get his butt over there. Okay, then October 21st, you're in Salt Lake City, and then
Yep.
you're playing October 22nd in Los Angeles at the Regent Theater.
Yes, it's our We Love Airports tour.
And that
Please don't
that
mess with us.
that's with Riverside.
Riverside is going to join us in Los
Ah,
Angeles. First time they played there since the 90s.
God, I wish I
So
could
that's
get
exciting.
down
We're
there.
really they played a show with us in Philadelphia back in September, and that was dynamite. We're really excited to have them along. It's
I
going to
think we
be
have a few fans here listening or tuning in right now that actually got to see that event. And then you
cool.
have a little break. Then you head over to Orlando.
We're going to Orlando and working with same promoter that brought us to West Palm Beach last year,
Okay.
where we had a great show and a great time. And um, Orlando's shaping up to be all that. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never actually seen a show in Orlando. I don't know
Neither
anyone
have I. I've never been to Orlando.
I've been there just for Disney World, right? Disney World's there. That was many years ago. So I got, for selfish reasons, I have to ask, and if you want to message me offline out there, that's fine. When might you be coming back to the Bay Area? 2023?
Next record,
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, thought about trying to get there. There's kind of a limited bandwidth for touring this fall for us, and we wanted to maybe um, get back to, we were still getting back to some places that were sort of postponed, from like Philadelphia
Yeah.
and Texas. Dates were all things that had been booked for last year or the year before even, that were postponed because of COVID. And so we were still making up some dates, and you know, throwing in a smattering of things. But yeah, our focus next year, we'll be doing shows next year too. Maybe next year. I mean,
And
I don't like to wait too long to get back to San Francisco, so maybe next year.
and
We're working on it right now.
I can't remember. Are you working on a new album, or is it just
Yeah,
like we're okay? You are working on
yep.
a new album.
There's some new
Awesome.
songs in process, and
Okay.
it's on the tip of everybody's brain once studio, or once the touring
Yeah.
stops. Right now, that's kind of the focus. But yeah, songs come. Really, you got to turn the voice memo on at sound check and
Yeah.
see what happens.
Do you guys still keep in touch with the Orange Peels? Are you still
Uh,
good?
yeah, I
Yeah,
think I know
bandmate friends and all that.
Alan Clapp and Jill.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah. Okay.
message him on Facebook. Ed is in touch with him a lot. He was in that band. I've played on a couple cuts on a record of theirs, and yeah, they used to do a lot of shows with us too.
Before we wrap this up, I'm going to read some comments, and I always usually end with trivia, quick trivia, and everyone can play this. Here's some comments along the way, and thank you again, Peter, for participating in this chat. It's been wonderful.
Oh, my
Um,
pleasure. Thanks for checking in. Yeah.
Absolutely. Christina says, just got home from work, but hello from California. Hey, Christina. Ping says, love Tally. Saw them in DC recently. They were fantastic. Saw Dylan play with the Ocean Blue last fall. Eric says, yeah, the Wild Swans. Yeah, you can't go wrong with the Wild Swans. I'll be interviewing Paul in the near future. Eric, we need to talk about that. That's pretty cool. Oh, Tammy. Yep, Tammy's here. Hey, Tammy. Love, 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 Resplendor. Yep, I know you do. That's great. Mark Allen says Orlando. And then Steve says the Abbey. And then Tammy
The
says, get
Abbey's the club in
okay.
Orlando. So
Okay.
if you want to go and you're in Orlando,
Head on
get
over.
your tickets. I think that one's almost sold out.
And then Tammy says, get the orange peels to return to the Bay Area with you. Very cool. All right.
Yeah.
So here's how we're going to end this. I'm just going to ask, did you like the 80s? You look back fondly at the 80s?
Yeah, that was 10 years of my life. I enjoyed.
Okay. So we're
You
gonna
know,
go
I
some
mean,
80s. We're
you
gonna do
know,
some 80s
it
cheese
was
here.
the difficulties of high school, and
Yeah, yeah.
leaving the
Um,
house, and all the growth stuff. But there were a lot of, it was great. Yeah.
all right, this
I'm
is
not
just
nostalgic for it in a sort of like uh pastels and big hair kind of way, but uh I love a lot of the music that came out of it.
all
Yeah.
right. Well, this is like think Casey Kasem 80s. Think just everything you know about the 80s. It's wide open. This is how we're gonna do it. I'm gonna ask the question. And for all of you who are tuning in, you can type in the answer. You can go to Siri for help. You can go to your neighbor. You can go to your roommate, husband, wife, uncle, whomever you want. Just type in the answer. And yeah, this will be fun. And then we'll wrap it all up and we'll say goodbye to everyone. So here's the very first question. And Peter, if you want to put the answer in the private chat that I showed you earlier, you can do that. Or
I never found that. So I shouldn't put it in comments then.
or
If,
do whatever you want.
oh, okay.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
Just don't blurt it out.
Do whatever you want.
All right.
All right, here we go. We're going to start off on a 1-pointer. There's a 1-pointer, 2-pointer, 3-pointer. 3-pointer is usually the more difficult one. Okay. Who just called to say they loved you? Who just called to say they loved you?
I just called
Go ahead.
to say
Punch that answer.
I love you. I should know that from the bottom of my heart.
Yes, we're getting some answers.
Oh yeah,
Eric
Stevie.
says Wonder.
Stevie Wonder, that's right.
Stevie Wonder, that's
Is
correct.
that from Hotter Than July? Or is that a different record? Like The Secret Life of Plants or something? Or
someone's going to answer that for you right now.
Secret
right.
Life of Plants?
Point to Wolf. Eric says he gets a point for that. All right.
Nice.
Here we go. This is a 2-pointer. This is name the band, name the song. So there was a legendary film series, Rocky 1, 2, and 3. And on Rocky number 3, what was the name of the theme song for that 1982 film? And name the artist. So, what was the name of the theme song for Rocky 3 and the name of the artist? Eric's feeling very confident. I like it, Eric. It's great.
It's good. Yeah.
Again, he thinks, oh no, Rocky again. It is Rocky. Well, it's not really.
Is this a running theme?
It's Eye of the Tiger, Survivor.
Survivor, not Night Ranger.
It's funny. My students who are so young, that's like one of the songs they know. Anytime you play it, every year, different class, they know that song. It's probably from mom and dad or dad.
I bet the Minions or the Trolls or somebody sing it.
Right. You're right.
I've been seeing a lot of those movies and all the repertoire. It gets used.
All right, this might. We got 3 more questions. This might bother some people here. We'll find out. Mick Jagger and David Bowie had a hit with which song? Mick Jagger and David Bowie had a hit with which 80s song? Whew. Yes.
Everybody just saw the Bowie movie, right?
Yeah. I have not seen it. Have you seen it?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's fantastic.
I think Tammy did see it. And I don't know. Yes, game, set, match. Eric, now you're getting a little hubristic here. That is correct. Dancing in the street, dancing in the Jeff Street. We got 2 more questions. We're doing some scintillating trivia, hard-hitting trivia with Peter Anderson of the Ocean Blue and many other bands that he's worked with. Here we go. Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel knocked his former band off the #1 spot of the Billboard Hot 100. What was the name of the band and album? Or song, I should say. Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel knocked his former band off the #1 spot of the Billboard Hot 100. What was the name of the band? Eric, man, you are on fire. It was Genesis Invisible Touch. And nice. I think they just did another tour last year. I think. I'm not sure. All right, last question. This is for all the marbles. Ooh. Okay. I'll give you a clue. Everybody loves this movie. I have yet to meet one person that doesn't like this movie, so we're going to go soundtracks. Huey Lewis in the News had this monster hit, Power of Love, which was the theme song to which blockbuster film in 1985? Doesn't Eric have some homework to grade?
Nice.
Which blockbuster film in 1985? MC Rap says Back to the Future. David says Back to the Future. Tammy says Back to the Future. That is correct. Great Garth. Back to the Future is the correct answer. Peter, any albums that you recommend? Any that you're listening to right now? Any of your go-tos?
Well, gosh, I'm always listening to a lot of music, and I suppose if I just look at my recently played, but actually the one that I've been listening to the most lately is Forever Changes by Love.
Okay.
Not a contemporary record, but and The Hurting by Tears for Fears. And
Christina, Tears for Fears, Christina. She's a little obsessed.
But otherwise, but yeah, kind of all over the place with me listening. Yeah, lately I've been listening to Forever Changes by Love almost every day. Heard some stuff or listened to it while I was painting the kitchen about a month ago, and then it always pops into my head, and I'm like, I want to hear that again. Kids like it too.
I have to do this since I have you here, and then we're going to say goodbye to everyone. Eric says, love this interview and the insight Peter Anderson Drums has given us tonight. Pink
Thank
says,
you, Eric. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, this has been fabulous. And again, we are playing on the 20th
Thursday
in Seattle.
Thursday in Seattle, Friday in Salt Lake City, Saturday in Los Angeles, and then Saturday the 5th of November in Orlando, Florida. For anybody in those regions, come on out.
And we have another Ocean Blue album coming out next year.
Well, we have another Ocean Blue album coming out.
Okay.
We'll leave it at that.
Got it.
Definitely. But yeah, no promises on when. It's going to be great. So.
And just to let everybody know that not expect anyone cares, but my favorite Ocean Blue song of all time, and I'm going to have to ask you if you played this one with them, is A Familiar Face.
Yeah, we have played it. We did in 2016, I think, or 15 is when we reissued the first 3 albums on vinyl. Yeah. And we went out and we played self-titled record and Cerulean back to back as from beginning to end. And so yeah, Familiar Face was in that.
Oh yeah, and that is my favorite Ocean Blue song of all time. Yeah.
Cool. That's a great one.
Yeah, so many great songs.
I love it too.
Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in. And by the way, Peter, I'm going to put the link to the playlist, that awesome playlist. After this interview, I'll put it in here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great. And thank you so much, William, for having me on your stream and for, having a good chat.
Yeah, this has been
Thanks
lovely.
Everybody for tuning in.
Yeah, this is W from High Arts on the Edge. Take care, everyone. Keep listening to Ocean Blue. Always a good thing. Bye.
Cheers.
Peace.